My name is Ricochet, and welcome to Stush Nerd Reads. This segment on my channel will consist of me reviewing fictional books from my bookshelf. These reviews are spoiler-free, so you don't have to worry about major details about the book to be revealed to you if you want to get this book yourself. I will rate this book using 3 different categories. You have plot, characters, and themes. Each category is marked out of 5 stars, therefore the book will be totaled out of 15 stars, and I will have an average score of 5 stars. Hey, so for today's video, I'll actually try to do something different. I'm gonna try to review this book off script as much as possible. I have my little notes, so we'll see how this is going to work out. You know the usual thing, so let's do this. Dusk to Dawn is a book written by Hugo Vanterpool. It was first published in 1995 by Kingston Publishers Limited, which is now known as LMH Publishing Limited. I first got this book purchasing from Bookland some time ago, and this book wasn't what I expected. So Dusk to Dawn follows Alan Todman. He's the eldest child of the Todman family, and he takes responsibility of caring and providing for his family while navigating the British Virgin Islands economy in the 1930s. To me, this plot actually sounds good, but however, upon reading, it doesn't... I don't think the plot gets to be fully realized in itself. So my first problem is that I don't think there's a lack of conflict, and I think the conflicts that do occur, they're resolved quickly. With one exception, there's probably, I'll say, one issue that our main protagonist Alan does face, and I think it's paced out a little better than compared to everything else. So yeah, I think generally there's a lack of conflict, and throughout the book you're also going to read like some interesting commentary that was occurring at that time, between the 1930s going to the 1950s, based on the perspective of the people of the British Virgin Islands. So, and I think the commentary is very good, but I also wish, more that we actually have more characters. There are characters that do experience it, but I wish it was like we're reading it as like we see our characters like experiencing it at the same time in the book. As much as same time is in the, it's not within our time period. I also think the pacing in the beginning is slow. The pacing has nice setup, but I think some of the chapters could just easily like squished up together. And I think therefore, and then so when we reach the end, I realized some of the ending chapters end up squeezing in so much information, because it'll say, this character did this character did that. It just skips so much for a period of time. I'm like, wait, what? Did I miss so much stuff? So I feel like the last chapter, and to me, I think the last couple of chapters brought up some of their major historical events that's happening in the Caribbean, and we see our characters actually making commentary about it and whatnot. But it makes me wish in the first place that this, I think these last couple of chapters had a better setup of some of the events that could occur and how it affects Alan. I think some of these comments are valid, but I feel like if it was paced out a little better, or if it wasn't just like, it's just resolved in this chapter and done, I feel like the plot would have been a little better. I will rate each character based on 3 different categories. First, we have development, then writing, then my personal favorite, the John Crow category. Okay, I think overall the cast of characters, their experiences, I feel like this is a very character-driven story, because their actions are what shape the future that they want. I think overall, like, the characters really do have like very nice perspective, and it's very distinct, but I feel like the pacing, the lack of conflict is what really doesn't do so good for these characters. So let's talk about them. Okay, first up we have Alan. So he's our main protagonist. I described that he's, pretty wise and hardworking. He has to basically with him being the eldest child, he has to take responsibility for his family, and I think this is a good thing. He doesn't really have a lot of development throughout the story, but I think the personality he has actually works. He's very determined. He actually wants to, work hard in order to make his own choices and make his own pathway of life, take care of his family, and do what he wants to do. But I think writing-wise, he's still a likable character, but I feel like if he was just given more conflicts, more stuff that he has to overcome. For example, later on, to kind of slightly spoil, he does pursue carpentry, but I felt like he doesn't get to struggle a lot there. Whether it's trying to organize a team, does he get to have a lot of failed projects? Does he ended up having all those issues? I think when doing construction, especially in that time period, that I don't think he gets to have a lot of issues there. I think he's just allowed to power through. So without that lack of struggle, I don't think it could. I think for the sake of the story, his personality absolutely works for the type of story being told here. But I think without him having, I think because he doesn't get to have a lot of lasting conflicts or whatnot, or the conflict he has resolved so quickly and whatnot, I felt like it could be better. Okay, next we have Kathy Hodge. So she's Alan's love interest, and this is gonna sound like a weird sentence. She feels more independent compared to other characters. Yes, I know that's a very strange statement, but let me explain. I think because she has some issues and conflicts, which once again I think are why I did complain about the lack of it. I think at least the major conflicts she encounters are a little better paced out, but I would say there is one major conflict which is taken off. A lot of it is taken off page, that it would have been nice to see, how she deals with her own emotions and everything like that. I would describe her, she's very affectionate and ambitious. She definitely, I think she's not a bad character either. I think she's written a little better than Alan. I also do appreciate the romance between Kathy and Alan. It's really good. I think their romance is actually, done, not too badly. And the conflicts she does encounter, I think, are a little better. But I think once again, same issue that, I think there could have been a little more interesting thing, especially when done with her side of things, specifically with her dad. There's a major conflict that she has with her dad, and like I said, that conflict particularly is such an impactful moment for our character, but I think so much of it's taken up off page that we just don't get to see a lot of it. Alright, next we have Ada. So Ada is Alan's younger sister. She's the second Todman child, so therefore, just like Alan, she has to also immediately take responsibility, for the family, essentially, helping raising the younger children. I didn't mention this, but the Todman family is made up with 9 children. So basically we have 9 children in total in this small house where it's very crowded, and Ada basically has to take care of all the kids, all the younger children. Now Ada is described to be very cheerful, and very generous, jovial, happy. But I would say my one issue with her is okay, so if I said at least with Kathy, how I said her with Kathy she felt quote unquote independent. I think at least with Ada, let's just say that while helping take responsibility for all the younger kids, yeah, she will have her struggles, but so much of it is not really talked about thoroughly or mentioned. It is later on, but it's not, such a highlight, especially if I feel for a book that's meant to be about this family, it's not highlighted. The Todman family, I don't think overall gets a lot of highlights in ways, especially Ada, who just like Alan has to basically grow up quickly because they're both young teenagers at the beginning of the story, and they have to quickly be thrown into this realm of responsibility. And I feel with Ada we don't get to see a lot. She does talk about it, yes, but I don't think we get to read about the conflict she occurs with her other younger siblings, how her dad felt about the situation and whatnot. So Ada is a character. So development-wise, it feels like some of the stuff that could have developed her character or changed her character so much is taken off page that I just can't really identify how much her character changed. She struggles, but I wish that it was shown that we get to read about it more. Alright, next up we have Samuel Todman. So he's the patriarch of the Todman family. So he's actually in the beginning of the story in St. Thomas, which is in the US Virgin Islands. He does return to Tortola to care for the family. But here's the thing, he could have provided like a much interesting perspective about because in that time period, because of the poor economy of Tortola, oftentimes people will have migrated to the US Virgin Islands or the Dominican Republic for work. And of course, this is exactly what he does. He does migrate to at least get a good job so he can provide for the family. But aside from exposition, and he does provide commentary, I wish that we also just for one chapter we see his perspective in St. Thomas and how much it contrasts the place he lived. Does he feel guilty about often constantly leaving the kids? Does he, or also there's a major theme in the book which he also could have embraced regarding culture, because it would also have been interesting because of his absence. He probably also felt like there's a certain part of culture that he did not get to teach all of his younger kids. He had time to probably teach to his older children Alan or Ada, but I wish we get to see his own struggles with migration and just leaving his family. It just would have worked so much better. And finally, we have Ella Main. Now, I'm not sure she's the aunt of the kids. Auntie Ella, how she's called throughout the story. Ella Main, Tante Ella, but I'll just call her Ella for short. So, I think writing-wise, she's the worst character. Oh my goodness. It's like this. She's described as, strict, demanding, and ways authoritative, especially because, in the beginning of the story, Alan's mother, her name's actually Rose. I'm not really going to talk about her, but basically Ella Main has become the mother figure to the kids for the first parts of the story. And the reason I consider her the worst, alright, so development-wise, it's clear that in the bit she appears, yes, she definitely changed, but I think writing-wise, she's described as this demanding, authoritative personality, which works, right? She does show that kind of strictness or over-demanding personality when we first meet her, but and this does cause some conflict between her and Alan, but like I said, it's resolved so quickly. Within one chapter, they had this disagreement, and after that, she just kind of chills out. And it's so quick, and I am just where's this, fiery personality it is talked about, and we don't get to see much of this. Now, aside from the demanding side of her, she of course has a sweet side, and of course she's responsible, for caring all the kids, and she definitely in ways cares. But I think that personality that she has could easily create so much conflict. Hell, even if it's not with Alan, she could have also easily had this conflict with Ada a lot more, or she could have had a lot more conflict with Samuel or the younger children. So I think, she doesn't feel as consistent personality-wise compared to Ada or Samuel or Alan. So I think that, it was they just out the fire in her so quickly, right? So it is just that, I think if the story just allowed her to progressively get to that point where she just kind of mellows out, she would have been such an impactful character. I'm not denying the fact that she made her impact on on Alan, but she just doesn't get to have that highlight, and I think that is just so unfortunate. So 3 themes in this book I can identify are politics, culture, and love and family relationships, which, and you guys, if you noticed already, I seem to be reading a lot of books that tend to involve family relationships. So for politics, there's a lot of commentary regarding the economic situation of Tortula. In fact, a major plot point is that the only doctor on the island is also the commissioner. And and that's really a big deal because this does later on result in a tragedy that happens to the Tonman family. And actually it's really good commentary regarding like how everyone's reacting, because it's issue with like how people get jobs. It is just so much. I really think that this is the strongest theme of the book. But once again, I wish that if we had we're reading characters experiencing some of the stuff in real time as we're reading, not just like in a flashback, we're just reading it. I feel like it would have been so impactful. Now, I do appreciate it so much. So it is a really strong theme. It really is the one that carries the story. It's literally the reason why our characters are in the situation that they are. So it really is good, insightful commentary, but I really wish that it actually caused a little more. But like I said, character conflict is like the biggest issue I have. But yeah. All right, next theme I have is culture. So culture is described as the way of life. Now, important parts of the book is about so they're talking about persevering culture of the British Virgin Islands, and actually that's a really important conversation. I think that an interesting thing, so obviously with culture, it's not only their way of life is because everyone at that time in Tortula mostly did farming. It's, well, in the book they refer to as quote unquote peasant farming. So they do farming or do some sugarcane production. There's also a lot of folk songs that's also sprinkled in. That's actually really good. I think especially when the conversation regarding the perseverance of culture would have been an interesting thing, or interesting plot point would have been if Alan or Samuel rather, he came back and then he probably talked to one of his kids about something that happened, and his kids are just so ignorant of it. It would be a nice thing that he kind of realizes, wow, I also just as much need to remind myself. And he can also put this with Alan, because to remind himself that, hey, you also have to preserve these little things, in written text, in songs, in dance. A lot of characters really experiencing in real time how they feel it was starting to fade out. I mean, yes, there's a point in time where they do see historical stuff fading out in front of them, but it actually would have been such an impactful thing if it was the major conflict in the story, something that a lifestyle that they had was fading out a little bit more, because there is a point in time where we do see something like that happen at the end. I think if it was in the beginning, in the first place, that would have been a nice setup for the plot, and it would be an interesting resolution. And finally, for love and family relationships, so literally the reason Alan does everything in the book is for his family, right? The Tomman family, they have a very strong bond, but my one issue, of course, is lack of conflict with them. So, and yes, well, I feel like the Tomman family, yes, they have struggles, but once again, the lack of conflict between them. I don't just want they have these issues and it's just bam, everything just resolved within this one chapter. I need to see not just their dynamics, but also these little things that happen to them. Okay, because of the issues with poverty, the experience and the farming, and the issues with jobs, it would be an interesting thing where maybe we had one of the younger siblings probably in a bad crowd. It would be a nice thing to see. The family is good, but like I said, the lack of conflict, especially if you remember what I said about Elamine, it would have been just so good. And sometimes conflicts do bring characters apart, but bring them back together. But I don't think, unfortunately, I think the book just doesn't do so much with the characters. It would have been nice to see, and it actually would feel so satisfying to see that joy, to see them come back together and whatnot, especially after we see them argue so much, but it just doesn't happen. So this is the weakest to me of the three. So, but I think overall all the themes are pretty good. I can clearly see all of them, but I think that's just all I gotta say. conclusion, Dusk to Dawn is a book that has something to say about the triumphs and struggles of the people of Tortula. However, the book provided material that needed further expansion. You know, if you read the book yourself, you can tell me in the comment section and what your thoughts about it. With that being said, thanks for watching this video.